All right, so moving on. Our next question is from Nate. Nate's in Little Rock, and he writes, my pension is offering me the opportunity to purchase additional years of service, accelerating my retirement. Should I stop putting money in my 401k plan to fund this purchase, or should I transfer part of my existing balance in my 401k to my pension to make it happen? Nate, thanks very much. Pension's a big part of your retirement income, again, being financially independent, and it sounds like Nate's already got a pension and now has an opportunity. We probably might need to define some of what he's saying there, too, for people who are not really don't understand that vernacular, I guess, when it comes to pensions. But purchase additional years of service. You find this oftentimes in the public realm when someone, let's say, is a law enforcement officer and they move from one type of agency to another. Sometimes there's a connection between those pension plans, and they're allowed to buy extra years from their old employer in their new employer. Sometimes military, I think, maybe even offers that.
There's lots of options there, Scott, and understanding the rules of the pension are paramount here. These are very, very complex rules. You do not want to go this alone. You definitely want to talk to a pension counselor. Most pensions usually have a counselor that can be sure that you navigate through that. You also want to take into account what your financial advisor says about this, because there are a lot of options with pensions. Additional years of service may or may not accelerate your retirement date. I don't know that you would get an early retirement out of it, because most pensions have a minimum retirement age, usually at 65, before they will start paying you out. Because think about what a pension actually is. A pension is just a big bowl of money, and they have to think about how long will we have to pay someone during that time. And so there is an actuarial calculation, and what that means is they just look at the age and the health of the group of people that are involved there, and that's how they calculate the funding of that pension. But they're not going to let somebody retire early and draw the same amount of money. If you retire early, you're going to take a reduced benefit that might not be in your best interest. But what could be happening here is the additional years can increase your pension amount, the monthly amount that you draw from the pension. But most pensions have a minimum retirement age, as I said, usually about 65. So don't think that this is going to accelerate the time that you have as far as getting to retirement is concerned. What will the lump sum actually buy in terms of pension payments? That's a big question here. Is it worth what you're putting into it?
Yeah, I think of the phrase, the old saying, you rob Peter to pay Paul, right? I mean, if you're going to potentially take away from your retirement savings to bolster your retirement pension payment, there's a lot of math that has to go on right there. Is it going to be worth it? And I think in general, there are some restrictions. When I think of a pension, I mean, it's a great thing. It's great to have additional guaranteed income. There is no question that of the clients that we work with, if we see someone who has a pension in addition to a Social Security check, that they're not going to need as much in the way of retirement savings and investable assets to layer on top of that to be able to be financially independent, because they have more guaranteed income. So we love pensions from that standpoint, but there are some restrictions when you think about it. They're limited because it is a check, John, and in most cases, if you retire and start receiving that check and in the second month die in a car accident, there's nothing left.
That's right. Or it could go to your spouse, and when the spouse dies, there's nothing left. There's a lot of variance in that, but it usually only spans at the very most the husband and wife, or the two people in the marriage. And so if you're looking at this from a standpoint of how can I maximize the utilization of my money, you may think about not doing this and keeping that money in the 401k plan, because a lot of people value the liquidity that a 401k plan has versus the set amount of pension money. As we said, a pension is a paycheck. It is not a lump sum unless there's a lump sum option. And if there's a lump sum option, then there's no pension option. Yeah. And so there is a careful dance that I think Nate needs to do in this. He needs some help. He needs some help from the pension organization. He also needs some help from his financial advisors so they can plan a strategy around whatever this decision might need to be. And I think I would let that drive my decision on this as opposed to any other factor.
Yeah, and another factor on the pension, too, is we don't know what type of pension this is. Does it offer cost of living adjustments, right? Sometimes that pension payment's going to be flat for the remainder of your life, which means your first check is your best check and your worst check. But some pensions do offer a cost of living adjustment. Back to the financial advisor part of that, John, you talked about building a plan or working with a financial advisor to determine what the right decision here is. When you think about the pension question in a vacuum, it's really not the whole story. You do have to look at Social Security. Do you have an annuity? What other sources of guaranteed income do you have? And is that going to be enough to pay your expenses in retirement? And the other thing, too, I would say, too, on the 401k part, he's asking, should he transfer part of his existing balance to the pension to make it happen? We don't know if that can be done without a tax consequence. It might be able to, but you don't know that.
Yeah, all of those things are definitely things that you want to talk to the pension counselor about. You want to do all the research. You want to have all the information on the table, then make a good decision about it and not just do a knee-jerk reaction of, oh, I think that's going to be a good thing because it's going to boost up my monthly payment.
Before we get to our last question, I want to remind you again about our evening with Jeffrey Roach coming up. If you find yourself asking what's up with the economy, and we've been asking that ourselves around here, right? Which way is it going to go? We've got rising interest rates potentially now over, but we don't know that. There's mixed messages coming from the Fed about what their next move will be. Inflation seems to be tamed and under control, around 3% in the last report of that. Unemployment still low. People have jobs, but credit card debt is soaring. Are we going to have a recession or are we not? There's a lot to talk about here, and we're going to talk it all over with Jeffrey Roach, who is the chief economist at the country's largest independent broker-dealer. That's LPL Financial, our broker-dealer, in fact, at GenWealth. Dr. Roach has been on CNBC, Fox Business, and U.S. News. He's going to be with us in Little Rock at the Chenal event venue on Tuesday, August 22nd at 6:30, and we invite you to join us. And bring your questions. It's a Q&A event. The event is free, but seating is limited. So if you want to reserve your seat, we recommend you do it soon because we are very quickly reaching capacity on this event. You can do it by calling 866-653-PLAN. That's 866-653-7526. Or you can visit getreadyforthefuture.com/economy to reserve your seat.
You know, Jeffrey Roach was the chief economist at Visa. He's now the chief economist at LPL Financial. He's been on all these shows. You know what he hasn't done?
What's that?
Been to Little Rock.
He hasn't.
Not been to Little Rock. He told me when we were in San Diego together that he has never been to Little Rock. He's excited to come. So I'm hopeful that we have a great crowd for Dr. Roach. We are going to have a great crowd. We just have a few seats left. So as you're listening to this show today, go ahead and make the call, 866-653-7526, or go to getreadyforthefuture.com/economy and register there for your opportunity to hear Dr. Jeffrey Roach with What's Up with the Economy.